Hi, welcome to the Product Compass podcast. My name is Paweł. Today my guests are Tony Ulwick, book author and the mind behind Jobs to be Done framework, and Sabeen Sattar, Chief Operating Officer and Product Leader at Strategyn. In this episode, we discuss what Jobs to be Done and outcome-driven innovation are and provide a practical, step-by-step example. I am sure you will enjoy it as much as I did. Are you ready? Great. So let's get into it right now. Okay, Tony, Sabeen, thank you very much for accepting the invitation. I'm truly honored to have you in the Product Compass podcast. I remember that I once worked with the startup that, like many similar companies, was obsessed with adding features to the product, and I remember that applying Jobs to be Done and outcome-driven innovation transformed the way they started thinking about the customers, started thinking about the jobs that customers wanted to get done without being overwhelmed by the features. So I'm thrilled to delve deeper into this topic today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us. I really appreciate the opportunity. What we've done over the years is we've created a process for innovation, and we've created more recently the tools to help you execute that process effectively. So what we're going to do today is first introduce the process. You may be familiar with it, but I'll go over that fairly quickly. And then Sabeen will take you through ODIpro, which is our innovation strategy platform that we've created that will enable you to learn the process and execute it effectively with the tools, templates, techniques, community advice, guidance, and so on that's necessary for you to be successful. So with that, what I wanted to do is start with what we mean by innovation. When we talk about this, we're talking about the very front end of the innovation process, everything that happens before the development process. So the idea here is that you're going to uncover the customer's needs, figure out which are unmet, decide which ones you want to target for value creation, come up with solutions that address those unmet needs. And once you've conceptualized a solution, then you can validate that it will address those needs before you move into the development process. So that's the goal of what we're trying to accomplish. And ultimately, what we want to help you achieve is to conceptualize solutions that you know with a high degree of certainty will win in the market before you start developing them. So you're not guessing up front and then correcting and iterating and pivoting in the development process. What we want you to do is to get it right in the upfront innovation process so the concept that you're going to develop is going to win. Right? You'll already know it. You'll feel very comfortable moving forward. So why do companies struggle with success at this process, innovation, the way it's typically done? Well, we know that product teams, they're trying to devise solutions that address unmet customer needs in the markets that they're going after. But what we find is that across most product teams, in fact, 71%, they don't agree on how to best define a market. Should it be defined as a product, a technology, a vertical, a geography, or something else entirely? We also find, which I find dramatic, is that 87% of product teams don't agree on what a customer need even is. Is it a requirement, a specification, an exciter, a delighter, a must-have, or something entirely different? We also find that 85% of product teams don't agree on how to best prioritize customer needs and determine which are unmet. 76% of product teams don't agree on the best way to segment a market. Should it be around a persona, a use case, demographics, psychographics, or something else entirely? So if companies and product teams can't agree on what a need is, what the needs are, which needs are unmet, and if there's segments of people with different unmet needs, then it's going to be very difficult for them to succeed at coming up with a product that will get the job done significantly better. So what we say is to be great at innovation, you need a great innovation process. And this is true of any business discipline. If you have a faulty process, it's going to be very hard to be effective at being successful. And what we mean here by a great innovation process, we mean one that provides teams with a unifying language for innovation. So you can all agree on what market you're in and what needs are, what the needs are, right? And which ones are unmet and what segments exist in the marketplace. You need a process that actually works, one that delivers impactful, predictable results. So instead of a 10% or 20% success rate, you have an 85% success rate. You need a process that aligns teams around value creation, so it's more customer-centric. Everything that you're doing is adding value through the eyes of the customer. And most important, of course, is the process enables you to conceptualize and effectively position winning products and services so that you know that you're going to win before you go into the development process. And that's what outcome-driven innovation is all about. It's a strategy and innovation process that aligns the actions of development, marketing, sales, and the rest of the organization around the metrics that customers use to judge the value of the products and services that they buy. The interesting thing about the process is it's conceived through a problem lens, not a solution lens. You've all heard the saying, people don't want the quarter-inch drill, they want the quarter-inch hole. So instead of seeing the world through the lens of what the company is doing, in other words, the drill maker, we want to look at the world through the lens of the hole maker and look at what the customer is trying to get done. So everything that we talk about in this process and in the tool set is through the eyes of the customer. It's purely customer-centric. And we view jobs to be done as a perspective. It's just a way to see markets, to see needs through this different lens, a lens that allows you to see the world differently and innovate very effectively. Now, the first thing that you see when you look through this lens is why people buy products to begin with, which is to get a job done. And a job can be anything that a group of people are trying to accomplish. It could be a task that they're trying to accomplish, a goal or objective they're trying to achieve, a problem they're trying to resolve, or something they're trying to avoid. Again, anything a group of people are trying to get done. And the goal of the innovation process is to come up with a solution that will get the job done significantly better than competing solutions. And what we've learned over the years is significantly better means about 15% better or more. In other words, if your product gets the job done just 1% better, chances are people aren't going to switch from the products they currently have. It's not worth it. It's not worth the switching costs. It's not worth the time and effort to learn how to use something new. Even if it gets the job done 2% better, you find those issues arise, or even 5% better. But when you can get the job done 15% better or more, people will take the time to learn something new because ultimately it's going to pay off because they're able to get the job done better and potentially more cheaply as well. The outcome-driven innovation process is comprised of the steps that you see here on the screen. And in fact, the ODIpro innovation strategy platform is based off the same schematic. We start with theory about the innovation process, which I'll cover. But as we go through this process, we'll introduce customer definition, we'll introduce market definition, we'll introduce job step discovery, outcome prioritization, opportunity discovery, and then the innovation strategy as well, which is the selection of the opportunities that you want to pursue and how you want to pursue them with different products or services or technologies. All this information then goes to marketing, development, R&D, so they can take action. The organization along all these different fronts. It can help you define the product. It can help you define the value proposition. It can help you define the go-to-market strategy and really help lead the organization over the long term to help your customers, get the job done significantly better. The reason you want to learn this process and use it is because the chances of your success will go up quite dramatically. What we've seen is that if you know what all the customer's needs are and which are unmet up front, the chances of devising a solution that will address those unmet needs goes up quite dramatically because you're not guessing at it, right? So rather than guessing, we're laying out a structure that can be used to make your front end of innovation process much more predictable. The approach itself has been proven over 3 decades. We've applied it in over 1,000 growth strategy engagements with some of the best companies in the world, working with some of the smartest people in the world. It's really been poked at, brought it, and we've worked to refine the process over the years so that it works very effectively in every industry. What makes this process different is the level of granularity that we go down to in order to understand the customer's needs. And uncovering the customer's job to be done is really just the first step in the process. We define a market as a group of people and the job they're trying to get done. But what's more important is the steps they go through to get the job done and how they measure success along each step of the way. And as part of this process, we go very deep, very granular. This example here comes from a project we did in the medical space with surgeons trying to remove an anatomical structure surgically. And you can see what they're trying to do: establish initial access, gain visual access, define the pathway to the structure, navigate through the barriers, terminate the blood supply, mobilize the structure, and so on. Now, as you go through those, what I want you to notice is that we're not laying out what the customer is doing. In other words, we're not breaking this down in solution space. It's not a process map in solution space. It's a job map in problem space. So in other words, there could be 50 ways in which surgeons could execute any one of these steps, but they're all trying to do the same thing, right? And that's what we're trying to get at. What is the underlying needs that they're trying to achieve as they go through each step of the process? I'd also like you to take a look at the outcome statements listed below. So this is what we call a need statement. This is why it's called outcome-driven innovation. For every step in the job, we want to understand very precisely how customers measure value. They all want to get the job done better. So what does better mean? It means faster. It means more predictably with better output and throughput. So with that in mind, we can capture these statements that look like you see here. Minimize the time it takes to mobilize structures bound by adhesions that block access to the targeted structure. Again, a very specific instruction from the customer to the innovator, so they know that if they can help them along that particular dimension, that would add value in terms of getting the job done. And as you go through this process, you'll see that many needs are uncovered. Often 100 or more outcome statements are uncovered as part of the discovery process. Now through this, you can agree on what the job is, what customers' needs are, but yet we don't know which ones are unmet. So that's where we want to go next. But before we get there, we want to think about these desired outcomes as perfect need statements. It's a group of words, basically, and those words have to transfer some insight from the customer to the innovator. These statements have to be knowable and discoverable, solution independent, measurable and controllable, actionable, unambiguous, stable over time, and this is what we've created. We've tested many variations of these statements over the years to settle on this particular grammatical construct. So defining all needs along these dimensions will bring you the kind of clarity in terms of what customers are trying to achieve. These needs you can't visualize these needs. In other words, if you go do observational research, you're watching what people are doing. So you're watching in solution space. We need to get beyond that. We need to understand why they're trying to do each of these things and figure out what are they trying to achieve and how do they measure success along each step of the way. So it's a different discipline. In other words, when we start this process, instead of being in product space, we go to problem space. And we define everything at a great level of detail in problem space. And once we know what those needs are, which are unmet, if there's segments of people with different unmet needs, then we come back to solution space when we try to solve for those particular needs. The advantage of this is you end up with those 100 plus timeless statements that instruct your company on how to create value. And because these statements are stable over time, you can use them for years to come. Again, a very unique aspect of these types of statements versus most research that's done by companies today. The next step is to figure out which needs are unmet. And that's done through quantitative research, where we go to customers and ask them to tell us which of these which of these outcomes, when we go to them and ask, which of these outcomes are most important and least satisfied? So we get a importance rating. Is it very important, extremely important? And a satisfaction rating. Is it somewhat satisfied, very satisfied? And with those data points, we're able to plot out on the opportunity landscape which needs are the most important and least satisfied. So for example, the outcome that you see here, we see that 81% of the population that we studied found that particular outcome to be very important or extremely important. Yet only 30% of the population found it to be very or extremely satisfied. So what this means is that it's very important, and the difference between the importance and satisfaction is great, giving it a high opportunity score. And you can see the algorithm on the top of the screen. Now, what we're able to do is then plot all those outcomes that we've collected and surveyed on a graphic to figure out where the market's underserved and where the market is overserved. Now, the advantage of doing this, of course, is if you know where the customers are underserved, this is where you can spend your time trying to create more value. And if you know where they're overserved, this is where you can spend time trying to cost reduce existing products. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is to help customers get the job done better and more cheaply. And the ODI process points out where you can focus to get both aspects of the innovation process done along those particular dimensions. Innovators know which of those 100 plus outcomes are unmet and to what degree. That's the advantage. So now we're going from a position where we're not sure what a need is to we know what all the needs are and we know which needs are unmet. There's one other big step that we recommend that's part of ODIpro as well, which is to segment the market, but not around demographics or psychographics or use cases, using it as a proxy for unmet needs. In other words, they're trying to find groups of people with different unmet needs, but since they can't segment around unmet needs directly, they'll use the proxy. Well, we're going to skip that, right? Because we have the set of unmet needs. We're going to go directly to segmenting around those needs and then build out the persona based on the groups of people with different unmet needs. So, for example, a third of a population may think certain outcomes are important and unsatisfied. A third of the population may think outcomes 10, 20, and 30, for example, are important and unsatisfied. Another third may think outcomes 40, 50, and 60 are important and unsatisfied, and so on. So these people get placed into segments using cluster and factor analysis based on the way they've rated those needs for importance and satisfaction. And from there, you can then look through the profiling questions and come up with reasons or rationale as to why those segments exist. What unique circumstances are people in that's causing them to have those unique unmet needs? They are quite literally segments of opportunity. We call them hidden segments of opportunity because you can't discover them unless you segment directly around the customer's needs. With this, we can discover these segments. We can act on them in meaningful ways. Some segments are overserved, some are underserved, some are appropriately served, which means in some cases you may pursue a sustaining strategy, others may require a disruptive strategy, others yet may require a differentiated strategy. So this has given you authentic, distinctive, actionable segments. They become discoverable using this approach. As we move on in the process, now we can figure out where do we want to focus. We call this the innovation strategy. Which segments do we want to go after? Which unmet needs do we want to go after? This is our choice, right? These are the needs that are most underserved through the eyes of the customer. And the way I like thinking about this is the most efficient path to growth in problem space. Now, you may not be able to solve for every one of these needs, but if you could, this would be the most efficient way to get there. But we have to apply reality and capability and skill set to this as well. And you get to go through and then pick which of these you can go address in the most effective way. And what this will allow you to do is to take these opportunities and look at them from a marketing standpoint and say, given that there's these unmet needs in the market, can we better position our current products? And we've seen in many cases that companies have products out there that are addressing unmet needs and just not messaging to those unmet needs. And when they do, it can certainly improve their market share. Next, you can improve your existing products and services. You can also find opportunities to fill in gaps in your product line with other products and services. Or you may be able to make the right M&A and R&D investment decisions to help fill the gap as well. But all this is in alignment to get the job done perfectly, right? So with the information that you have at hand, you deploy the strategy over time, and this results in happy customers, repeat business, loyalty, great brands, and so on. The other aspect of this that we really like is that all this is measurable and predictable as well over time, because we can track the level of customer satisfaction along each outcome every couple of years or so, as we can see the progression moving. As we introduce new products, what happens to customer satisfaction? Where did the new opportunities come from? And track this over time until you've ultimately created that perfect solution. Again, this is how you conceptualize solutions that you know will win with a high degree of certainty before development even begins. And I wanted to bring in this quote as well. This is something that Clive Meanwell, who was the former chief executive officer of the medicines company, said when he was asked, what is the value of the ODI process? Now, although it's very scientific and it gets you across the finish line in a very effective way, his view is that it brought teams the competence, the transparency, alignment, and trust that they didn't have. So it brings teams together, aligns them in a direction, but more importantly, the right direction, so they're all focused on what creates value for the customer. So instead of debating what the problem is and what the needs are, which needs are unmet, you're debating what is the best solution, what is the best way to help customers get the job done. And all this is part of the ODI process. So as we get into the platform, what I want you to think about is these steps. The platform itself is designed to teach you each of these steps at a great level of detail. There's tools to help execute each aspect of the process, templates, support, community, and Sabeen's going to talk about all of that. But it takes you through each step of the process, defining the customer. Is it the job executor? Is it the buyer? Is it someone on the product lifecycle support team? Market definition, the group of people in the job to be done. Is the job defined at the right level of abstraction? Job step discovery. How many steps are there in the job? Are you starting the job at the right time and ending at the right time, and so on? Outcome discovery. Do you have a complete set of outcomes from beginning to end? Opportunity prioritization. Which needs are important and unsatisfied? Are there segments of opportunities that you need to pursue? And then the innovation strategy, as we described, and deploying that across the organization. The ODIpro platform includes a way to execute the ODI process, courses and certifications, tools, templates, community and access to experts, and private monthly events. Sabeen's going to go into this in a great level of detail. And with that, Sabeen.
So what we're going to do next is demonstrate the outcome-driven innovation process using an example. I'm going to use ODI to help me understand where the opportunities are and how to approach them. To conduct this demo, I'm going to be using ODIpro, which is Strategyn's innovation strategy platform. A quick spiel on ODIpro, and I promise I won't spend too much time on it. ODIpro basically enables you to practice the ODI process that Tony just described. This is my main ODIpro dashboard. Here I can learn, train, and collaborate with other ODIpro members. On the training side, we have levels of training where you can learn ODI at different competencies. Each course has quizzes and workbooks to help you understand the application of what you've learned. Each course, you also get a badge that you can share, so you get a competency level. We also, within each course, have additional references where you will have tools and templates to help you apply. On the community side, the community is great for sharing and collaborating on work with others, as well as resources for each topic. We have great tools within each of the topics to help you get started. So I'm going to go back to my example and lay it out for you first. So hypothetically speaking, I'm a product manager for a well-established pet food company. The market is very competitive. It has been years since the company introduced any new products in the pet food space. In recent years, there has been a lot of buying of pet food that has moved online, and there is extreme diversification in various types of pet food, which has blurred the lines in any distinct benefits of each one. In general, there's also a trend amongst pet owners being more conscious and aware of pet health, as well as a trend in the market to make packaging more environmentally friendly. As part of my goals, I've been tasked to jumpstart development initiatives with a sustainable pipeline of growth in pet food. My innovation goals include improving existing lines of pet food, determining how to best position the brand versus competition, and making all the products easy to buy online and improving the packaging. I'm going to use the ODIpro platform to demonstrate how I can use outcome-driven innovation process to help me find and target opportunities to address my innovation goal. The first thing that I need to do is understand what customers, jobs, and outcomes I will need to study based on the innovation goals that I have. So I'm going to use the jobs to be done needs framework for that. Let me just quickly put in my innovation goals that I typed in, that I told you about before. To improve all of my existing lines of products, I need to study the job executor, the core functional job, and all of the outcomes within the job to help me understand what the opportunities are for product improvement. Since I'm trying to understand how to better position the brand versus competition, I also need to study the emotional jobs. And then, because I need to make all the products easy to buy online and improve the packaging, I need to study the product lifecycle support team. I'm going to change this over to consumer product goods since I'm studying consumption chain jobs. And I know since I'm trying to buy online, the purchasing job needs to be studied, as well as the transport, store, learn how to use, maybe even the interface and dispose jobs. So now I know that I have a lot to look into with my ODI project. I'm going to prioritize or start with the core functional job of the pet owners. I need to first define what their market is. In the resources section of the ODIpro community, which you can either access to the training or the community, we have this great market definition canvas. It's also up on the Strategyn website. If you're not an ODIpro member, you just might have to do some digging. So the market definition canvas basically helps you think through and map out the job that your customer is trying to do. I already went through this exercise and pre-populated it for you. I'm defining the market as pet owners trying to provide nutrition for a pet. Now that I have my market defined, I need to do some qualitative research to understand how to map out this job. In ODI, jobs, job steps, and outcomes follow a very specific set of rules. So I'm going to use the outcome validation tool in ODIpro to basically help me check my outcome statements. Using machine learning and AI, our outcome validation tools has most of the rules pre-programmed in here. I populated our pet food example also in here. This is a subset of what we captured during the qualitative research, only for demonstration purposes. If you look at it, all of the job steps are defined and we have outcomes in there. What this tool also does is helps me understand when an outcome doesn't fit my rules. So you'll see this one right here that says maximize the benefits the food provides to meet all of the pet's nutritional goals. We know all of the statements start with minimize the time or minimize the likelihood. I'm going to fix this statement to say minimize the time it takes to determine the benefits the food provides to meet the pet's nutritional goal. And then check the statement again, and it should tell me that it's all good. This was just a very simple example of what tool can do. It checks against all of the rules that you will learn in the associates course, and it will give you feedback on them. Maximize is an interesting choice of words on the outcome statements themselves, because when we try to talk to our customer, we're trying to maximize the value of what they need, versus if you switch to a minimized format, as a team, we can understand what we're ultimately trying to reduce the time and likelihood of an undesirable event to ultimately increase or maximize the value for the customer. So once I have a good set of outcomes, I can, somewhere around 90 to 120, I can export it out of here. But what I'm going to do next is to quantify them. So I'm going to ask my pet owners how important each is and how satisfied they are with what they use today. This is how I will be able to identify opportunities and targets for my goal of improving products. There's a great questionnaire template in the ODIpro community, which is great for thinking through the sample size, the type of questions I need for a survey like this. When I get the data back from a valid set of customers, I now need to look at the data to understand the opportunities. For that, I'm going to go into the opportunity landscape graphing tool. So I have this tool pre-populated with importance and satisfaction data from pet owners themselves. Let's take a look at the opportunity landscape first. Customer needs or outcomes in this white area are not important and not satisfied, so overserved, and not an area of opportunity for me and the goals I have because I need to create better products. If I was trying to understand how to reduce the cost of my product, I might study this area. This light gray area is where importance and satisfaction are equal, so appropriately served, and will not help me to achieve my innovation objectives. Now let's take a look at this dark gray area, which is of most interest to me right now. I'm looking for new ways to improve my product, and this is where the needs are important and not satisfied. Thus, this is where people are more than likely to buy. Now, what I'm going to do next is we have all the needs underserved, overserved, and table stakes on the left. I've already filtered them out for the underserved needs. All of these outcomes that you see seem to relate to understanding what and how to feed the pet based on their characteristics like age, gender, breed, etc. It provides an opportunity to build a platform to help pet owners determine their pet's nutritional needs based on their pet's characteristics. We could build a platform for pet owners where they can input their pet's age, breed, allergies, health issues, and weight amongst other variables. And then based on that information, the platform can provide pet owners with a nutrition plan specifying the ingredients, quantity, time of feeding, and frequency of feeding. This solution could also address some of the table stakes needs that I didn't go over, which are in the top right corner, in order to maintain their share of the market. So the ODI process provided me with opportunities to get to my innovation goal of improving products in a manner that would not have been able to identify otherwise. I can link all of the pet food for our company to this product platform and help pet owners get the right food for their pets, which is a message that will also resonate with all of pet owners. That's all I had for you today. Thank you for sticking with me as I demonstrated ODI. Over and back to you, Paweł, for questions.
Yeah, thanks. That was super interesting. I'm wondering, are there any areas in which outcome-driven innovation fits best, like B2C products with a large number of customers, or you can apply it to any product?
Well, you can apply it to any product, but there are areas where it works better, and maybe it's more appropriate. The medical area, for example, they have very long product cycle. They have regulatory. They can't afford to get it wrong. They want to make sure they're developing the right product, and they're very technical products. It makes great sense for them to invest in something like this. We've worked with companies in the food industry, and that's very different because they can prototype foods and test them in a few days if they want to. That's not a barrier. So if they just want to go with an ideas first approach, they could keep guessing and testing, but we have still had success in helping companies like that figure out to stop guessing, right? So they can figure out exactly where are the most unmet needs, what are the emotional jobs associated with those unmet needs, and tying it all together so they can, position their butter products or their cheese products, or we've worked in many, with many different companies with ingredients to products. So it's a little different application, but it works well, but maybe it's less necessary than a medical device company or any company that has a long development cycle where they just can't afford to get it wrong. We've worked with government agencies that can't afford to get it wrong, for example, and so that's a good application. I'd say one of the other variables is, some markets are high emotion and low function, like jewelry or liquor, where there's more emotional jobs. In some cases, the emotional jobs are more important than the functional job or the outcomes associated with the functional job. So that's a little twist. It works. It still picks it up and it can identify that. You have to apply the process in the correct way to make sure that you're going to uncover the results that you need to position it correctly and so on. So there's slight variations of the model, but the frameworks that we've created are useful for every one of those instances that I've just described.
Is the population size some limitation? Because you mentioned that you need at least a few hundred. Is that correct, customers?
Well, that's if you have, that's when there's a large number of customers and you need a statistically valid sample. So if you're serving a market of 3 million people, you want to get a sample of at least 180, 360 people. But we've worked in markets where there's only 50 customers. That's it. And so, like fighter pilots, for example, and in the cases like that, we would get survey results back from 10 fighter pilots and said, that's enough, right? Because it's a third of the universe, basically. So you don't have to worry about getting statistically valid data. It already is statistically valid because you've talked to a third of the customer population. It is a representative sample.
And just to clarify, is it fair to say that jobs to be done and outcome-driven innovation, it's about the product discovery part and specifically about the problem space? And then as part of product discovery, you also have to ideate on how to address those opportunities. And that's your ideas.
Sure. Yeah, we include ideation as at the back end of the process when we go into development. So you get all these inputs from through the process that we talked about, through customer discovery, through the innovation strategy, and then it's time to deploy it. So you deploy it through development with ideation efforts to help them create the right products. You deploy it with marketing teams to create a value proposition that can then get plugged into the business model canvas, for example. You work with the R&D team to build a patent fence around the top opportunities that were discovered. So all this happens downstream. That's where we spend most of our time. That's where all the value is, right? But you need to know where to focus all those activities. And this is why we say ODI aligns the actions of marketing and sales, development, R&D around value creation, because they're all responsible in some way for creating more value for the customer. They all need to know how to define value and where value is going to be recognized. So it brings that alignment that other processes don't bring, and which most companies don't have.
Okay, so it's like first we align around who our customers are and which problems, which opportunities we want to pursue.
Yeah.
And then based on that, teams can ideate and discover solutions to these problems.
Sure. That's right. And it's funny because, so many companies get stuck on that very first step, like who's the customer? Many companies will say, well, the buyer is the customer.
Yeah.
Well, if you study the buyer may not even be the user, right? And if they can't tell you how to get the job done better, so now you've started down a path that is going to be a definite failure, right? So things like that need to be considered up front. So making mistakes up front, of course, can be very detrimental and send you down the wrong path.
I saw this, probably this was the first screen that Sabeen presented about different types of people that can be in single organization. So like actual users of the product, but also support and maybe other decision makers that participate in the process.
In a lot of organizations, they tend to mix the internal customers that they might be serving with the external customers that they're serving.
So they make the product easier to install, even though it's not getting the job done for the customer, as an example.
I remember that Sabeen, you selected the type of the product. I remember that the list of job steps was like pre-filled. Is that correct? So if you have analyzed different industries, different types of products, and there are some templates that people can use and then work on defining the details.
Yes, so what we've done in the jobs to be done names framework tool is on the consumption side, we've defined it for certain verticals. So we've defined it for services, consumer product goods, as well as hardware. And then we have a default one that includes all of them. But you can select the type of vertical or the product category that you're dealing with, and you can select the consumption jobs based on it.
Okay, so we have the innovation process. We have resources for people where they can learn more and also participate in the community and find a lot of materials and reduce templates to help them apply this knowledge in practice. Is it some kind of resource or guidance, or maybe you can just share your thoughts on how to introduce this process in the organization? So let's say the organization is currently working in the old way, asking customers about what they need, and they are implementing it in the product. What is the best way, or maybe a proven way, to make this transformation and start applying the outcome-driven innovation process?
So we actually studied the job of what it takes to build an internal innovation capability in an organization. And from that study, we found out that there is 3 levels of what you're dealing with in an organization. So you have an individual, you have a team that's made out of individuals, and then you have an organization that's made up of teams, right? Our ODIpro platform itself is specifically designed for individuals and organization, and you'll see a lot of tools within the platform itself that is aimed at sharing, becoming an innovation champion in an organization and sharing the information with others. So in the introduction course, for example, we're teaching the basic concepts of what Tony talked about in his presentation. But what we're also doing in the workbooks or the think books for that course is basically reflection on how similar or different this is from what you do today. And those similarities and differences will help you explain the concept of ODI internally in an organization and use it to go forward. So that's if you start at an individual level and you want to build. If you start from the top down, from an organization level, and an entire organization is trying to build an innovation capability, I would recommend that you start with understanding sort of the markets that you're in, as well as the current capabilities that your company or your organization has, and then use them to determine a plan of how you're going to actually innovate, how you're going to change how your organization innovates. Some companies or organizations might want to form their own ODI team so that they're building, basically mapping out all the jobs, the outcomes, and there is an execution team that's taking action on those outcomes and opportunities that have been identified. In other organizations where they might only be in 1 or 2 markets, you might want to hire us to do the work for you and then take that output and execute on it. Because to deploy on ODI, you need a team of skilled researchers that can execute ODI at the level that we're talking about. I've also seen companies do it in a way or fashion where they start with an alignment and around a process. So they want everybody in the organization to align around what is this process, what it means for them in an organization. And they start off at that level and then build on that level by saying, okay, everybody's on the same page as to what is ODI, what are the key terms used in ODI, and then how are we going, that then leads them to understand, okay, what is the information that we need to get to the next level of actually becoming an outcome-driven firm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of it just starts with language, just like Sabeen just said. Get everyone on the same page. What is innovation? What is a strategy? What is a market? We have a nice glossary of terms. I think that's on our website. That it's the language of outcome-driven innovation that just lays it out, and it kind of lays it out in a nice story format too. So it talks about all the job definitions, and then market definitions, and need definitions and opportunities. So it kind of walks you through the steps of the process so everyone's on the same page. We've even seen this in companies that have been dabbling with jobs to be done. They'll say, hey, look, we've been dabbling with jobs to be done for a year. No one understands it, or they all understand it differently. So they're not even on the same page as what jobs to be done is, even though they're trying to get down that path. And, this tool and our approach helps to bring all that together, because we've developed a set of terms that all fit. They're intrinsically related to one another. So, when you define a market this way, you have to define a need this way, right? And so on. So all the pieces fit. They all make sense. And it's taken us, it's taken years to get there, but that's all part of our approach. And, when you've executed a process like a 1,000 times, you learn a few things. And when you've executed it with people looking over your shoulder and asking why this, why that, you learn a lot. And, we've made all those upgrades to our approach over the years so that they address the unique circumstance that you find in nearly every company.
The one thing that I'd also add is alignment is the first phase, regardless of what type of organization you are. The next step is around understanding or identifying the skill set or the capacity for the organization. And what I mean by that is there'll be people that will be executing on ODI research in the sense of getting the qualitative and the quantitative data. And then there'll be people that are executing on the research and taking action on the research. And you need to be able to identify and understand whether you have that skill set or that capability in your organization. And I'll say, just based on the study that we did, as well as working with organizations over the past few years, is a lot of people will say they have the research skills, but don't necessarily do.
Okay, so all those experiences from the years of working with outcome-driven innovation and best practices on how to apply it are implemented in the platform. Is that correct? So you already did this job, you know what works, what worked the best in the past, and people just can take this knowledge and implement it in their organizations.
That's right. We're trying to make something that's very complicated and make it a lot easier. It's still not easy, but it's not as complicated. You don't have to make it super complicated. Let's put it that way.
I don't have any other questions. I learned a lot, and many topics that you discussed are really close to my heart. The overserved needs, or defining the markets as a group of people that have a similar job to be done. And I really would like more people learn about those concepts and about your approach. I will also share a special link so that people can access your platform with a discount for my community. Thank you for joining the podcast today.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you ever want us back to quiz us some more with question after question, we're ready.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening to the Product Compass podcast. Today we discussed jobs to be done and outcome-driven innovation with Tony Ulwick and Sabeen Sattar. On the screen and in the episode description, you can find the link to ODIpro Innovation Strategy Platform, where you can find everything: processes, tools, templates, techniques, community, advice, guidance, and certificates. I'm not an affiliate, so the discount code visible on the screen is just for your benefit. Subscribe to my newsletter if you haven't already, hit the like button and share this episode with others so we can keep growing and learning together. See you soon. Take care. Paweł.